I woke up, I was on my back on a hard raised surface and a light above me. I was in a lot of pain. I was in and out of consciousness for quite a long time, but the pain, led me to think that I'd been hurt and taken to a hospital. And I wasn't thinking real clearly, but I remembered approaching that object and thinking that I must have been hurt somehow, But I was lying on my back, and there was a device laying across my chest. And so I didn't want to move too much. It hurt to move, and I didn't want to interfere with anything the doctors might be doing. But when I finally, my vision cleared a little better, and I saw these creatures standing over me, that was when I knew for sure I was not in the hospital. And I was so weak I could hardly move, but somehow I got the strength, and I guess it was just the jolt of fear at seeing these things and realizing where I was that gave me a burst of energy, and I was able to rise up and knock this thing off of me and back away from them. They came around and came towards me, but I grabbed, there was a bunch of instruments and things along this counter behind me, and I grabbed for something to defend myself with, and there was this long clear glass or plastic. It was either rod or a tube or something like that, but I grabbed it and swung it at him, and then I hit it down on the table trying to break the end of it off, get something sharp. I wasn't really trying to attack him, I was just trying to keep him away from me, and it must have worked because they stopped all at once before they were in range, and I was, just hysterical, flailing at them, and so all at once they turned and went out into the passage outside the door. This was a very dimly lit and cramped space. It was really very bare, not hardly anything in the way of features. I didn't see any screws, heads, or bolts, or rivets, or welds, or anything like that. In the movie, they have it looking real organic and irregular and lots of debris around, but it wasn't like that. Very sterile environment. They'd gone to the right, and so I was afraid they'd come back, and I just wanted to get away from them. It wasn't, anything well thought out. It was just sort of a panic move to just put some distance and try to get out of this thing, which might not have been too smart. Had I been able to open a door or something, that might have been worse situation, but I tried. So I went down this little narrow passage, and I kept looking over my shoulder and wondering if they were pursuing me, but because the passage curved so tightly, I couldn't see very far behind me or ahead of me, which really kind of, made me feel, it just added to my panic. And so I just went ahead and scrambled forward, and I even went past one doorway that I might have been able to escape through, but I came to a door, and there was a little room there with a chair in the middle, and when I went in there I could see that there were points of light on the walls and floor. I don't know if this was a way that they had of viewing the stars, or where it was actually at the moment, or if it was just like a map or something. But most of the controls that I was trying to operate, I was trying to see if I could open a door, because there was some what looked like doorways on the other side of the room. But most of them didn't seem to do anything. There were some controls that made these lines move on the screen, but nothing opened the door. There was one control that caused the star pattern to move. Not the stars relative to each other, but the whole thing just moved all at once, and that was real disorienting because, my only reference for standing upright, other than, my sense of balance was the chair and the door had just come in. So that may have brought someone, or it could have just been a coincidence, but I turned and there was a man, well, at least I thought he was a man, standing in the doorway. I thought it was somebody there to help me, to rescue me, take me out of there. So I tried to ask him questions. I was telling him about these creatures that I had seen, and but he didn't answer me, and I thought maybe that was because he was wearing a helmet over his head. So when he led me out of there, I went, only too willingly to, if he was going to help me escape. And so when we got outside the craft, at this point, it was inside of a large room, either a building, like, sort of a hangar-like thing, or maybe part of a larger craft. And I tried to look around, but he seemed to be in a big hurry. He led me out of this larger room. And it was quite a relief just to be outside, away from those creatures, be into the brighter light and cooler air, much more breathable. And so he led me down a hallway to a room and left me with some other people who were dressed like him, except they weren't wearing helmets. And so I started in with all my questions again, what was going on. Actually, it was just a bunch of babbling and screaming, but I was trying to get them to tell me something, and they weren't answering me. So I started to have a lot of misgivings about whether I was rescued or not, They started leading me over to this table. I'd had enough of laying on tables, but they were trying to get me to lay down on this thing, so I started trying to fight them. And I was still pretty weak from when I regained consciousness, but my panic gave me a little extra strength, but they were way too strong. They were able to get me up on the table pretty easy, but I got one arm free and reached under the edge of this mask they put over my face and tried to pull it away, but before I could get it off of there, I blacked out. And so the next thing I recalled was waking up. It was cold out. I was on a hard pavement, and there was a light above me, so I looked to see where the light was coming from, and it went off just as I looked. So it was either like a light fixture or a hatch closing or something, but then it was just this shiny metallic thing hovering above the road, and then it just shot straight up into the sky. It was gone from sight so incredibly fast, but it didn't make a sound. It was pretty silent, and I could feel a faint warmth on my face, but other than that, it just sort of moved the tree as it went past. Just the air moving around it a little bit, and especially that suffocation. Now in the movie, they have the actor struggling to breathe with this membrane over his face. Now that didn't happen to me, but I was feeling suffocating. I couldn't breathe, and the air it wasn't, I don't know whether the atmosphere wasn't right or had something to do with the injury that from being hit by the beam, it interfered with lung function or something, but when you can't breathe, there's nothing that's going to make you panic more, especially in a real closed-in space like that. So the ones that were called grays, they're called grays now. Back then, this was relatively new. There weren't a whole lot of other similar things, at least none that I knew of. They were short, hairless beings. One thing that differs from what I consider a traditional gray description is the eyes. These eyes were huge, but they were actually, I actually saw them blink. You know, they were like a regular eye, but just very, very large. And but you know, the human type being, they were you know, they were kind of Nordic looking, but there was something very odd about their eyes that I just never have been able to figure out. And you know, as far as the artistic renderings are concerned, that's something I don't feel that I ever got completely correct. But they were very young, healthy looking, very strong looking, and kind of alike in a family sort of way, but not like identical twins. So